Hello, hello. This is Irene with SaugaTalks. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right. If you're not following SaugaTalks yet, you have the chance doing right now, right here. We are on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on X. So please let us know what's resonating, what's not, because I'm Irene Lyakovetsky. I'm speaking with fascinating people in tech. And fascinating people in tech are very generous with their time, with their expertise, with their knowledge. And that's what we're here for in this SaugaTalks community, to enlighten, to excite, and to educate to some degree. So today is my day because Patrick Bangert is with me. Patrick, how are you?
Hi, Irene. Pleasure to be here. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm so happy that we found this time and that we're going to talk about perils, challenges, and successes of GenAI in marketplace right now. It seemed to be the topic, at least all my feed on LinkedIn, on X. Maybe I tuned it wrong, but it's all about GenAI now. Okay.
It
I
is.
know that hype will be over. So this way, it's either becoming mainstream and we're going to be just acknowledging it like many other trends, or we're going to continue in shock and awe of what it's doing to us, to the marketplace, to companies and the consumers alike. So what's the state of Gen AI, Patrick, from where you are?
Yeah, you mentioned the word already. There's a lot of hype, and that's exactly what it is. So a lot of what we're hearing all over the channels is in fact hype, right? So the question is, how much of it is genuine? I would say about 10% of it is for real. Much of it is being overhyped on promises that may or may not come true at some point in the future. I think all of you in the audience know that the generative AI packages are trained on existing data. Specifically, the textual generative AI is trained on the internet. Now, a lot of what you find on the internet may not be factually accurate, may be intentionally false, maybe just the opinions of people, but not, ground truth reality. That's what it's trained on. And so the output reflects that. Additionally, if you want to increase the accuracy of any AI method, whether generative or not, the usual recipe is go get more data. But if you've already trained your AI on the entire internet, it's kind of hard to get more data. You're done. So it's difficult to see where the current problems that we're all observing, hallucinations, non-real outputs can really be corrected. More data is not available. More accuracy requirements would necessitate different architectures, different methods of doing it, or maybe adding extra layers. And that's what's happening now, by the way, Irene. If we want to, for example, remove discriminatory speech or words that we in society don't use in like insults and such, how to remove them from GenAI. GenAI includes them, so you have to add extra layers, extra filters. In other words, extra software utilities that remove that sort of thing, right? So pipelines are getting more complicated. All the while, I think those of us in business are thinking, where's the use? A lot of the use cases we see on social media are very entertaining, but do they provide business value? And so some do, many don't. And that's I think partly what we're here to talk about is which do. So I'll just tell you my favorite one. My favorite one is analytics. So you're all used to looking at dashboards. Like they give you pie charts and forecasts for time series and summarizations of your insights, so that you can make better decisions. Dashboards take a long time to make, but you can do that with GenAI, right? You can ask a question in English, and you can get a response as a dashboard, right? The GenAI converts your English question into a database SQL type question, retrieves the data, and then converts that table of data into a graphic that you can look at. Most importantly, though, the actual content that table of data, that is not generated by GenAI. That's retrieved from the database. In other words, you've used GenAI to make it a lot faster to get your answer, but the answer is reliable. The answer is true and precise and accurate and comes from a database that you have proper governance on. So you can trust it and you can make a decision now. And I've seen this happen myself, by the way, Irene, where I've been in a board meeting, board members had a question, and that question previously would have needed some analyst to go away for a few days and come back with a handful of charts. Now, those charts appear instantaneously, correctly, and we can move on in the conversation. We can take a decision and be done. So that's my favorite use case of GenAI that is real and that offers genuine value.
That is really fantastic. Okay, you mentioned the entertaining value. There is no one who have not played with their own faces on top of, I don't know, car brands, fashion choices, I don't know, historical characters. It's all fun and jokes. Okay, but you mentioned serious business that absolutely relies on the data, and I love how you clarified it, that there is no magical about GenAI, and it's always like we know with the databases at the time, right? Garbage in, garbage out. Okay, the data you rely on. So no wonder the experts on data like yourself, okay, we need more voices just demystifying that miracle, because when we're talking about hallucination, it's a little bit more than that, right? It's combining, it's like exactly that, hallucination, right? It's founded on something. All right. So but it's garbage if you want to really rely your company value on it, or company destiny, right? So let's turn this conversation into how companies and businesses implement GenAI in their operations, because sounds like it's an easy kind of your experience with presentations. That's no brainer, right? But in terms of sensitive data, and most companies' data are pretty sensitive to their customers, to their patients, to their consumers, right? So where do you see the good angle to use GenAI effectively and safely?
Yeah, so this is a really important point, which goes to much of the hype. So that the hype out there suggests that AI is fully automated, right? You go to your favorite AI vendor, you sign up, and there it is. Well, I'm sorry to say that no, it's not just there. You can't just use it that same afternoon. Those tools have to be configured to you. The pipelines have to be put together. They often, almost always, require several software packages from different vendors to be put together in such a way that it really delivers what you need. And you mentioned some of the important requirements here. Cybersecurity is one, right? You want your input data as well as the output data that you receive back not to be visible to the general public. Data governance, for example, you don't necessarily want every employee in your company to have the same access rights. You want some to have more and some to have less, and you need some sort of governance strategy and therefore IT system to decide who is who. You would like to remove certain biases. In certain industries, like let's say you're a bank and you give loans to people, being biased against certain group of people is actually a legal requirement punishable by law. In other industries, you're not exactly doing something illegal, but you still want to remove biases. And that means you have to have a system that checks that checks for fairness and bias. In some industries, merely getting the output is unacceptable. You need an explanation of how that AI system arrived or can justify that this output is correct. So you're talking about adding a multitude of layers, some of which are just IT, like governance and access and security, and some of which are true content layers that modify things. So putting that together with respect to your particular needs does take time, and it does take people who are in the know-how. And then on top of that, my favorite pet peeve is change management. just building the IT tool and telling the thousands of employees at your company, guess what? How lucky you guys are. There is a new tool out there too. Most of your staff will, of course, not be happy to see yet another tool. They've already got 100 tools. So there's a change management process that needs to occur to educate them on how to use it, when to use it, when not to use it, how it is beneficial, and then, of course, most importantly, how it will help them individually be more effective. And that is frequently ignored, right? That the process of change management requires staff, time, budget, and whoever's in charge of an AI project, I would encourage you to reserve some time and budget for those non-IT topics that need us to anchor the function within the teams that we have.
Absolutely critical points you're mentioning. All right. So every technology conversation I'm having here, and I had a lot, about 50 plus, haven't counted lately, but quite a library I have here, right? It quickly comes from technology to data, no matter what we're discussing here, and from data to change management, to organizational practices, to us people, okay, the way we handle this technology, the way we work with technology. That's no surprise. So to leaders out there planning, right, and strategizing right now, don't start with the technology driver. That's Irene Lyakovetsky opinion. Patrick, what's your point of view, right, in terms of, I know you're working with clients, you're working with large companies. So what's your strategy advice number 1, 2, 3?
So the analogy that I like to give is data is the new oil, right? We've all said that. But what does that mean? Well, databases and generative AI are like the refinery for oil. It must be refined to yield the fuel that you want to put in your car, right? So all these IT tools, they're the refinery, and then you end up with having a fuel depot. Now what? You still need to transport the fuel from the refinery to the gas station. You still need to own a car and put the fuel in your car and have an engine and know how to drive it and then go meet your destination, right? So merely having the data and having the tools to refine it is not enough, right? You need to do these other steps, like educate your staff, train them on the tools, train them on the use cases, make sure you can convert the tooling and whatever it does for you into real business value, that you can measure that business value. So at the end of a quarter or a year, you can say, we invested X dollars in these systems and we recovered hopefully 10 times X in value in some way, right? And value is not a gut feeling. Value is hopefully something you can quantify. So putting these measurements in place so that your people actually use the tools and actually accomplish something with them, that's the real essence of it. And right now, for generative AI, the truth is that most companies are still talking about generative AI. And they're doing what people call proof of concept to see something about it. And so this phrase, proof of concept, is one of the things that I'm actually most worried about, because it means different things to different people. So I like to ask, what is the concept that we're proving here? And some people think the concept is, does the software operate correctly? Well, by and large, it does. And if you want to determine that, you can, efficiently ask other people who've already used it. You don't need to do a project for that. If the concept is my data sufficient to do this, then you might need to try, indeed, a little bit of a scientific proof of concept to verify that. But I often find that what people actually want is a proof of value rather than a proof of concept. And the difference is very great. A proof of concept generally for vendors means I will put together a kind of demo environment of the software, in your case, with your data, expose it to your people, and you can kind of play around with the software and see if it works. But if you expect a proof of value, that doesn't do it for you. Right? To see that this software, that this data, that this functionality offers actual value, you need to use it in a productive environment in real life cases and observe and measure the outcomes that are different from before, quantify that in value, and then say, yes, not only does the software operate correctly, we have used it in real cases, we have observed and measured its value, and here is the value, and now I have a proof of value, right? So if you're thinking about doing a proof of concept, I urge you to set it up correctly, that you actually get what you need, which by and large, in 90% of all cases, is actually a proof of value. Make sure that you have the capability to actually, try out under real conditions so that you can observe that. That, I think, is the fastest path to actually using it. And that's what we all want in the year 2024. We want companies to get to the point where they actually use some of this generative AI, actually observe that it is useful, that it is valuable in certain circumstances, and then move on and actually deploy it in a productive use.
Good points. Yes, I'm sure when people watch this, okay, it makes some thoughts, running in the right direction. You're absolutely right. And I'm just summarizing, right? Proof of concept, everyone know what it is, right? Proof of value. It's a little bit harder exercise, but it's much more rewarding, right, in the end. So excellent point. So can we talk a little bit about some misconceptions on the way, okay? Because there are people who are still very excited, who are presenting to their organizations, all right? These are the fantastic results I saw. I want to do it right here, right now. So what are major misconceptions on the way?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. So some of the misconceptions are that, GenAI just works seamlessly in all of the cases. So just be aware that most of the cases that you will see on social media have been carefully curated by whoever created them. Almost all of them will have been created by a vendor who wants to sell you something. So of course they put their best foot forward. A demonstration of the tools will have been carefully choreographed before being recorded, and of course works in that case. But does it work in other cases? So in AI, something to be aware of is what's called distribution. So distribution, that word takes account of the fact that different circumstances are different. A model has been trained on a certain distribution of cases, and if your particular case falls within that range of variation, you're fine. The output will be good. It'll be accurate. It'll apply. It'll be good. But if your case is out of that distribution, if the variation from the norm is greater than the experience that the AI model has, it will not do very well. So humans have what we call graceful degradation, right? If we humans are being put in a situation that is different from what we've experienced in the past, we will not do very well, but we will do okay, right? So we degrade, but we degrade gracefully. AI, if you put AI in a situation that it hasn't seen before, it does not degrade gracefully. It just fails.
And that's how we see animals with 24 legs. That's how we see. Exactly. And in my own experience, when I'm experimenting, okay, it's almost doesn't make sense to use GenAI in many cases because your checking is as much time consuming as probably the effort that you would apply elsewhere. Because in those beautiful images, just look carefully and you will find very interesting details that no one ever wanted, or intended to put there. All right. So, and again, it's when it's all fun and games, yes, we're having a good time. But when it comes to sensitive customer data, patient data, right, all kinds of sensitive data, for sure. All right. So thank you for pointing it out. I encourage everyone, by the way, follow Patrick. Okay, I'm big fan on LinkedIn. I've read all his articles, all of them. almost all of them. All right. And the latest one, really addressing the point of what are the best use cases, right? What is the realistic and what's the most value providing application of GenAI today. So I highly recommend, I encourage everyone, follow Patrick, see what he does when he's not talking on SaugaTalks. Okay. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Patrick, thank you so very much again for joining me here. In the article that I mentioned, right, you talk a lot about predictions for GenAI adoption in 2024, and it's on Beta News, right? That's the outlet where you published a couple months ago. I think those predictions need to be revisited by now because the field is evolving. All right, but please let us know if top 3 practices in 2024 that you put out there: source code generation, enterprise search, summarization, if those are your still top 3.
Yeah, so as I said, my favorite use case today is to generate these kind of analytics dashboards from natural language, right? I think that's very, very useful. Enterprise search, yes, absolutely. I think that's fantastic. Enterprise search, by the way, for all of you, means that you can have a natural language interface to all the proprietary content of your organization behind the firewall, secured, encrypted, all of that, but you have natural language access to all of it. I'm not just talking about text and slides, I'm talking about audio and video content as well. So you can natural language query all of it. Imagine that you have 100,000 customer conversations recorded over the hotline. You can ask questions against the entire repository and get a meaningful answer. That's enterprise search. Very useful. Summarization is very connected to that. So let's say I have a lot of these audio files. I can't possibly listen to them all, but I can ask GenAI to produce me a summary, not just of each one, but of all of them. And now I have meaningful content that I can consume and do something with and improve my customer service, my hotline, my products based on that feedback. So yes, those use cases are of genuine business value. I do recommend them to all of you to just play with and try out.
Perfect. So what about safeguards? Okay, I hear about limitations. I hear how you start with data and you're thinking about safeguards that make sense for your organization. So that's where customization and proprietary development starts. Okay, so what are the best recommendations for safeguards for the companies who are embarking on the journey?
Yeah, we already discussed some of them. I mean, cybersecurity, of course, is one. Data governance with access controls, proper documentation of the data. Data quality is another, right? Check to make sure that your data is in fact correct, complete, accurate, that things aren't missing, that you don't have duplicates. All things of that nature are important to be included. And then filters to make sure the output is roughly where you want it to be. All of those layers of software are available from diverse vendors, but you do need to put them together appropriately to make sure you get the output that you need.
Perfect. You mentioned one shiny example of using GenAI and already making an impact. Okay, so what are the lessons learned that we can offer? Because it looks like we don't have enough real life lessons just yet from the marketplace out there.
I think the biggest real life lesson that I want to share with everybody is when you test the systems, test them under real conditions with real inputs. Don't test them with simplified inputs in a Mickey Mouse environment because then you will most likely get better answers. If you test these systems under real conditions, you will see what they actually behave like, and it'll be different than in the Mickey Mouse examples.
Perfect. Now, I cannot not ask you about job market and the impact, okay? We all have our own answers, okay? And those who like closer to the tools, they know they're not replacing. I know, how about me? I know they're not replacing anyone today because yes, you don't use your high-paid data analyst time to summarize that takes days and weeks to summarize the simple text, or listening to those audio recordings you mentioned, or going through video material, which is mind-blowing. Okay, I would not like that job at all, but at the same time, right, how do we go about it, and what's the right message to the professionals who starting right on the marketplace, or those who really expert in their fields but still very much concerned?
Yeah, this is, I think, a really central question of the field. My opinion is that Gen AI will not really make any jobs go away. So there's well-founded research that just about every individual out there fulfills in their job 50, 60 different tasks. One job, 50 tasks. Out of those 50 tasks, maybe 4 or 5 can meaningfully be automated with artificial intelligence, and the others cannot. Maybe those 3 to 4 to 5 tasks are, a good proportion of the time that you spend, and so the efficiency will be significantly increased. There are statistics out there that say Gen AI will provide a 30% productivity boost to the workforce, at least to the knowledge workforce, and that's believable. But you, as a human being, with your greater knowledge, greater experience, more capacity to deal with out of the ordinary situations, will be required to deal with the out of ordinary situations that are going to occur. And AI will be very poorly prepared to deal with out of ordinary things. So we cannot get rid of the people. So the value argument that AI will reduce the number of salaries we need to pay, and that's the value, that calculation doesn't work. So the case you mentioned, you wouldn't like the job of having to listen to thousands of hotline interviews. That's exactly the point. Nobody has that job, right? So up till very recently, whenever you call a hotline and it says this call may be recorded for training purposes, it was never used for training purposes. It disappeared in a black hole. Nobody ever heard that conversation, but now it does. Now AI listens to that conversation. So the use case of listening to hotline conversations is a net new use case. It's not that this was previously done by people and is now automated with AI. No, it was never done by anybody, and now it is automated by AI. So AI doesn't get rid of people. AI provides capabilities that you never had. So it's the net new use cases that are really driving the value, not the automation of existing stuff.
And that's exciting. That's exciting. You know what? Time is flying. I would like to ask you about the predictions, okay, quote unquote, because first of all, I want to know your opinion, what lies ahead, because the progress we're seeing is amazing, is astonishing, okay? We are in shock and awe every day, all right? So where do you think we're going this year and maybe in 5 years, if you courageous enough to talk to us about it?
Well, my hope is that in the year 24, we will see large enterprises actually using Gen AI. In the year 23, they haven't. They've talked about it. Now is the year to actually do it and use it in some of these targeted use cases that I've been talking about. Many of the vendor companies are, now engaged in trying to promote and sell. So I'm not looking to see too much in terms of technology development anymore. I'm seeing more in the push to use it. The real innovation, I believe, in the near future will come from the legal side, from governments, from regulatory bodies, because right now AI is a bit of a Wild West where it is unclear what is allowed and what is not allowed. Who is liable for damages in case damages occur? These questions remain unanswered. And so both vendors as well as clients are worried about the answers because we don't have them. If I purchase a tool today and use it tomorrow, who is liable? We don't know. How was it created? How is it regulated? What kind of ethical requirements or data disclosure requirements are there? We all don't know the answers to that. that will come. So the real innovation will be legal, in my view. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what the various governments have to say and how they resolve the problem that AI is necessarily international.
Yeah, fantastic points. Thank you. So in conclusion, Patrick, as I mentioned, time is flying. I'm happy to host you again and again because your insights are incredibly relatable. Okay, I found myself.
Thank you, Irene.
Yep. I again encourage everyone. All right. So if you are as excited and as impressed by the simple way to put the complex concept that Patrick just demonstrated, okay, contact Patrick, contact me, comment on these videos that you will see on X, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. We're happy to continue this conversation because we hear about this community, this collaboration, and sharing the knowledge that, again, thank you, Patrick, for so generously sharing it with us today. All right. In conclusion, could you please give us a few takeaways, maybe 3, 4, 5 points that you want to leave our audience with?
Well, thank you, Irene, for having me. It was a pleasure to talk to you. So point number 1 is subscribe to SaugaTalks, of course. Point number 2 is don't listen too much to the hype, but try things out yourself. Try them out under realistic conditions. In case you do try them out, think about proof of value rather than proof of concept. As you do that, please reserve time and budget for the necessary people aspects like change management rather than simply doing a technology tryout. Those would be my top points. The final one is go for a concrete, tangible, narrow use case that will deliver value to you rather than just playing around with tools and trying this and that. Try to accomplish something specific that will bring your organization forward to the next step. You can then try the second step after that, but don't do everything all at once.
Thank you, Patrick, so very much.
Thank you.